Hey everyone, Skull902 back here for the finale, part 2 of Power Rangers Time Force. So we're going to be taking on the last 3 levels and, whatnot. Going to start off here with Katie, the yellow Time Force Ranger. I didn't really get into the stats of the characters, and they do have different stats if the menu wasn't an indication. In the end, it really doesn't matter, the stat differences. The only one that I really notice when I'm playing the game is that Katie is the slowest character when she's running. But other than that, not really noticeable with the strength differences or anything like that. So, yeah, I figured I should notice, or rather note, that little difference there. So as far as Katie as a character goes, much like Trip, as I described earlier, she's like a fun part of the team. She kind of gives life to the party, but she's also a mother figure. If I can just stop stumbling, she's also a mother figure to the team. So in a way, she's kind of like the heart, the emotional support. And a good example of that, I think, is in the first episode when they lost Ransik, Lucas was kind of giving Trip a hard time, being all like, why didn't you tell us that Ransik had a plan and all that? And Katie was, giving Trip a hug and basically told Lucas to go fuck himself and leave Trip alone, so like that's her role, She does have fun and whatnot, but she's a very responsible member of the team, and is there to give emotional support or a back-breaking bear hug to anyone who may need it at the time. One of the more cautious members of the team, I think, as well. There was an episode about her getting like really concerned about the effect that their being in the past would have on the future. So, yeah, that's basically Katie in a nutshell. Now, something you may not have noticed, especially if you're not a regular viewer of mine, in which case, sorry. But I mentioned 3 Rangers here. Alex, the original Red Ranger, Trip, the Green Ranger, and Katie, the Yellow Ranger. And something that I kind of noticed was that, this season, there's a lot of Rangers who have names in common with friends of mine. So I actually went and looked. I compared every season of Power Rangers, and it's this and SPD that has like the most in common. So 3. So that's like an interesting little detail there. There's a Catherine in SPD. She's a ranger for only 1 episode, but I count that anyway. And then there's also a Skylar and God, I'm forgetting the third one, but I'll have it on screen here. So yeah, I just thought that was a pretty neato thing. So kind of surprised with how long Power Rangers has been going on that there weren't more Rangers who had the same names as like friends of mine. But, it's whatever. So, we're going to be going on to Evil's Senator, or whatever the hell his name was. I know Senator was a part of it. And another thing that I did some looking on is that none of the monsters in the game are actually, like, from the show. So, a bit of an interesting direction that they took when making this game. All original monsters. I don't think that's ever happened, or at least not to my knowledge. Anyway, there's plenty of Power Rangers games that I haven't experienced in the slightest. But usually they take a bunch of monsters from like early on in the show's run. But as far as I've seen, like, this is the only game that has, like, a completely original cast of monsters. And while that is an interesting idea in theory, in execution, at least in this game, I think that you could kind of tell that it was like a bit of a throwaway so that they could tie in with the themes of the levels. Like, you know, this guy's a senator, so, you know, put him in Rome. Mutineer was a pirate, so, you know, put him back in the 1700s. And so on and so on. So, you know, they didn't really do that idea that well in this game, but I can see that being like a really interesting idea for, you know, a Power Rangers game with some more care, I guess you could say, put into it. You know, even though I say that this one is a throwaway game, it is still, you know, it's still a good, fun game, and I'll get more into that. You know, right at the end when I'm getting into my final thoughts and whatnot. I just thought that it would be kind of fun to say that it was an original idea and whatnot. But now we're going to be moving on to the next level, traveling back to ancient Egypt and whatnot. And for this one, I'm going to be doing it as Lucas, the Blue Ranger. So Lucas, I think, of all the characters, is the one that got, like, the least amount of development. Now, unfortunately, that seems to be a thing. As far as I've noticed in Power Rangers, like, the Blue Ranger is the one that usually ends up with the least amount of character. If he's a guy. Because, you know, there are plenty of seasons where the Blue Ranger is, like, a female. And then they'll, like, take the Yellow Ranger slot in that respect. Usually speaking, like if it's a 5-person team, like the Yellow Ranger seems to get like the second to last amount of development. But again, it depends on like what the colors of the team are and all that, you know. Just for comparison's sake, Time Force, like it's a fairly typical season in that respect, and you know. Jen's the Pink Ranger, and she gets some of the most development out of all the characters in the show, you know. So that's how that sort of works out. I can get into these dynamics at another time, but how would I explain Lucas? Well, Lucas is like the closest thing to a jock I think that you could get with this cast. Without necessarily being a jock, I should clarify. Lucas is, you know, somewhat full of himself. Like, he's not like a douchebag or anything, but, you know, he has those sorts of concerns. He likes cute girls and fast cars, you know. So, basically, he tries to be cool, is his thing. And that's basically the extent of his like base personality. But as far as like being a Time Force cop is concerned, an officer, he is fairly by the books. Like I described Jen as by the books as a character, and she's like second most of all the Rangers, Alex being the first. You know, she takes it very fucking seriously. Lucas also takes it seriously. But not quite as much. And an example of that, I think, would be when Captain Logan fired them after they lost Ransik. Like, Lucas disagreed with the decision. He was, you know, bitching and moaning about how the captain got it wrong and should give them another chance and whatnot. And Jen was like, no, he made the right choice because we failed, you know. But, you know, he's not quite as... how should I say, loose as a person or whatnot as like Trip and Katie, because like when they fought Ransik for the first time and his forces, you know, and they were all done, Wes activated the Morpher and whatnot. But after the battle, like Wes was celebrating, hooting and hollering with Katie and Trip, but Lucas was having none of it. Like he was giving Wes the death stare. He didn't do any of the talking, presumably under the understanding that was Jen's job. But you know, Lucas kept a serious face during that moment. So yeah, that's basically a summary of Lucas's character. You know, he much like the other Rangers turned around on Wes fairly quickly. Katie and Tripp gave him, you know, a chance like from the get go, but you know, he warmed up to Wes very soon after he joined the team. So there was like no real trouble or anything. The only member of the team that there was really any strife with was like there was some tension between Jen and Wes. But like the major one was like the rivalry that Wes had with Eric, who happens to be kicking the Dark Queen's ass right now. And if there's something that I can say about the Dark Queen, it's that this is the hardest boss that you're going to run into in the game. And it's not because of actual difficulty or anything like that, but it's because like she actually has the ability to jump around the screen and avoid your attacks momentarily. Like, it's still a total piss take, but, you know, she at least tries. I guess, you know, she's got, like, this big spread out projectile attack and everything, jumps back and forth. The most any of the other enemies do is, like, move back and forth on the screen. So, you know, that's something. Again, hardest boss that you're going to face in this game. So if that sounds like a disappointment to you, then maybe try a different game out. You know, perhaps this one isn't so much for you. Just, you know, speaking of the Time Force Megazord for just a moment, I randomly thought of this. There were two modes for the Time Force Megazord. There was mode Red, which we always fight in the boss fight with. We always fight with in the bosses. And there's mode Blue, and unfortunately, mode Blue is never seen in the game. I think that they kind of could have gone with what the PlayStation version did, and from what I remember, the PlayStation version switches it every level. So you get like a mode Red boss fight and then a mode Blue and whatnot, and it works. You know, it fucking works. So, oh boy, Circuit's been kidnapped, and oh wait, no, never mind, he managed to escape. Beautiful plot point there, very necessary. So, like, I'm gonna get the Quantum Morpher pretty soon after this level starts. But I do spend the second half of it as Wes. You know, I choose to tackle the second half of the level as our Red Ranger here. So let me get into his character. So Wes Collins, the son and heir of a rich businessman. Wes is something of a slacker. You know, he's not really all that interested in his father's business, or at least running the business side of it. You know, they put it in these terms fairly often when they get into like Wes's arc, but like Wes is a guy that wants to control his own destiny, right? He doesn't want it decided for him. So, you know, because he's not interested in running his dad's company, that causes some problems. You know, at one point early on in the show, they have like an argument, and Wes decides to move in with the other Rangers at the clock tower, which is like their base. And like their thing there so that they can sustain themselves is doing odd jobs. And then like Wes's dad finds him, you know, like picking out garbage, right, or dumpster service or whatever. Like, you know, he's working garbage, right, with the other Rangers, and he's like, Wes, you're a fucking disappointment. I never want to see you ever again, or something. And I think later on in that episode, he finds out that Wes is the Red Ranger, and Wes tells him like right then and there, you know, this is what I want to do. I'm doing something for myself, and there's nothing that you can do to stop me. And that prompts Wes's dad to create the Silver Guardians, which is the group that Eric is a part of. He isn't necessarily the leader at first. I did kind of skip on that detail, talking about that briefly in the last part. But it's basically like a no-brainer at that point, like when Eric becomes the Quantum Ranger. So like he's the leader of the Silver Guardians for most of the show. So there's like that bit of strife between Wes and his father. A gap in their relationship, a wedge, I should say, has been placed in there. But it ends happily enough. Like when Ransik is finally captured and everything, the other Rangers have to go to the future and whatnot. But Wes and Eric are actually allowed to keep their powers, which is fucking awesome. By that point, Wes has reconciled with his father after like an incident where Ransik injured his dad, and Wes had to take over the company for him. As an emergency sort of thing. Like, they forgave each other and whatnot. Wes's dad learned to be a little more considerate. Wes learned how important, that the business was to his father and whatnot. So they were able to forgive each other. And I think that, the idea of Wes and Eric, like, being able to keep their powers and being co-leaders of the Silver Guardians is a really nice thing to end the show on. It probably also helped with the Wild Force crossovers the next season, but I just think that like the show just has such good writing and everything. It's not just this. I could get into more details about the show, like Ransik in particular. He has an incredible arc. Frax, Nadira, like they put so much care and consideration into the writing of the show, and some might argue that the Japanese writers had a lot to do with that. For the Sentai version, because Power Rangers Time Force is very close to Time Ranger in that respect. But, I think that there are enough details changed to, say that, like, they made it their own and they didn't fuck it up, It's just such a fantastic show, and I think the cast and crew also kind of thought that as well, because apparently there was, like, such a big camaraderie between them that they almost did another season. Which might have been Wild Force. They also talked about like doing a movie, but unfortunately the Disney buyout of Saban Entertainment had something to do with like those things not quite coming together. Disney wanted to do their own thing with the franchise. They didn't even really want the franchise, but that's a whole thing that I can get into at another time. What I will get into is that Killa Crush or Crusha Killa, whatever the fuck. He's the easiest boss. You saw me just fucking stand around. At least the others, like, moved around the screen. This asshole just stays in place. He'll get, like, a lucky hit on you every now and then. But if you just stand right by him and keep swinging your sword, whether it be the Chrono Sabers in the Ranger fight or the Time Force Saber in the Zord fight, He's a total fucking pushover. So, I really hope that Ransik here provides a much better experience in his boss fight, because, I mean, obviously, it's Chilla Crush. There's no kill in Power Rangers. What am I talking about? But I hope that this upcoming boss fight against Ransik is much better than the fight against fucking Mammoth Fucker or whatever. So, alright, let's get into this. What? Power Rangers versus Ransik? But he's captured? Oh, come on. Very disappointing ending. Quite anticlimactic. Which is unfortunate because I think that this game is, you know, like, it's not as good as the Super Nintendo games. You know, for whatever reason, like, they didn't use the same engine. There's not as much buttons on the GBA, so I guess you couldn't really do as much. It is very much a, you know, just run and punch things sort of game, but what we get isn't bad. You know, if you want to, like, waste 40 minutes, right, and just, you know, punch a bunch of cyclobots or bosses or whatever, this is a perfectly acceptable thing. I certainly wouldn't hope that anyone would be, like, expecting the greatest game of all time out of a Power Rangers title. You know, this is one to just, like, sit down and have some fun with, you know. It's certainly not the Super Nintendo games, but what we do have here is fine enough. The boss fights are, like, all pushovers, and the fact that we don't fucking fight Ransik is really something in and of itself, but again, it's not bad for what it is. They probably just thought that you know, that they could get away with, you know, slapping something together really quick for the GBA and whatnot. So I mean, you know, why did I use that terminology? Get away with. It's not like they're criminal masterminds here. They're just selling a video game. But again, just one more time, because I don't want to go too overtime with this. What we do get, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's a good game. Not the best, not the worst. It's just mindless, harmless fun. And I'm sure that any kids who got it back in the day were perfectly satisfied with the results. So yeah, just as a whole package, Power Rangers Time Force for the GBA, good game. And that's the note that I'm going to leave on. Again, I'm kind of running out of games that I can do, so if I ever do a Power Rangers game again, I have no fucking clue what it's going to be. But the next LP in general is going to be McDonald's Treasureland Adventure for the Sega Genesis. So I'll see you there. I have been Skull902, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.